Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cross Commission Podcast. My name is Saif Fakadu. On the other line with me is Jake Nazar. Jake, tough weekend for the Commanders, but always great to see you on the camera and great to be on the mics with you again, kid.
Indeed. My left hand is down. The flags are flying at half-mast.
Half-mast. Maryland.
The end of a great season. It's a shame. Safe gave me a go Birds before we went live, which I dutifully accepted only because he's from Philadelphia. I don't accept them from anyone else who's not from Philadelphia. Anybody else tells me, and no thanks. I'm gonna start asking you what birds are in your area. If anyone else tells me. So, but yes, the Super Bowl's in what is it? 2 weeks, I suppose. But we got big games this weekend. We're back to the Grindstone. Another year of previewing college lacrosse action. I think this is I want to say 8th season we've kind of really done this in detail. But I think this is like the 10th year we've done podcasts together. I think the first time was 2016. It was the first year we did one, so that's pretty major.
That is a decade worth of content.
So yeah. You want to go back and listen to them? It's wild. It's wild. We got it's pretty crazy. I think there's like 10 seasons worth of these, college cross commission podcasts. I don't know if the archives go back that far, but I mean you can try and see if you can find it. But it's crazy to think. Crazy how far these go back. Just thinking about that. As I was doing the show notes for these. And I was doing the pod summary, another year, even just, as it's been just us three, as we've gone through these, we're into like year 5 or something like that of this, so I'm excited. I'm really excited. Should be a very interesting, unpredictable season. I think is how what we're all anticipating. And you've been pointing out a lot of transition for a lot of programs. Definitely some teams with high expectations. Definitely some teams unsure of what to expect. But once the ball rolls out there, it doesn't matter. Everyone's 0-0, and from there, we get to kind of dispense with the prognosticating, and when we get to do more of that, but we get actual tangible games to break down, and I'm really excited for Saturday when we're back here with Ryan and we get to break down, for the first time in will be 9 months actual game action. Feels like it has been a longer off season. I don't know if it's just the winter, cold winter that's hit us, but that feels like with the last couple of weeks, it's been a while since we've had some games, so I'm amped up to talk about them, and really excited to settle in and watch them this weekend. Happy that the weather looks like it's going to cooperate. Doesn't feel like, I don't know about have to check the forecast out west in the Rockies, but really happy at least locally. Baltimore sunny, 47. That's what it looks like on my app here. Baltimore's out for a tough winter. Seems like we're not on any cancellation. Philly Saturday, sunny, 46. Doesn't seem like we're in any threat of any cancellations, delays, anything like that. So it seems like we should have a nice, positive, good lacrosse weather to open up first day of the season.
Absolutely. And your point about the long offseason, I was going to say, this is the first real offseason where there wasn't entire classes up for grabs, with the next season. It was almost like an NBA offseason where it just was so much was going on in the offseason that it just there was almost a 365 day long season because it just went through. So it was just like almost as we've been talking about, like this return to normal, and it kind of feels a little bit not off-putting or weird, but it's just different because it's like, oh yeah, these last 4 years were like literally monitoring classes and the whole thing with some of the Ivy schools, that was delayed, but we had that as a talking point throughout 2023 and 2024, 2022, sorry, and 2023. And I like what you're talking about, like the beginning of the season, because it's a mixture of like mystery, because you don't know what's gonna happen. Everyone talks a great game in the off season, but you can even see from some of these season previews. USA Lacrosse Magazine did a great post that we were kind of talking about in the chat about with Duke. Like even Danowski was just like, "Hey, I don't know, man. We're just gonna throw the ball out and see it." And he was excited. And you could see but maybe he's just kind of playing it up for the reporters. But you could sense from the article that he had a bit of excitement too, because he was a bit of like, oh, we have a lot of different pieces, a lot of great stars are no longer here, and we're looking forward to a new star. So it's like there's that mystery element, and then it's just like hope springs eternal. Everyone's at 0-0. Everyone's like, hey, we got a shot, conference tournament, if that's a goal to Final Four. Everybody has that equal amounts, because it's like nobody's really started. There are no.
This is the first tournament, or first year, rather. Everyone can make NCAA tournament.
Oh yeah,
everyone in a conference. Everyone can play for an AQ. Iona, new team, they're in Lemoyne, not in the league. So everyone can, and everyone really, before we can go undefeated, but the teams know. Everyone really has the feeling now this season of it's on the table for us. It's attainable. Win our league, we're in the NCAA tournament. The ACC teams, but those teams really, they know what. Even if they have the ACC tournament back, you win the ACC tournament, you're going to be in the NCAA tournament, barring something truly fantastical. So this is a unique season in that regard. First time those teams, if they win their league, they'll be in the NCAA tournament. That hasn't been the case in years past for teams such as Hampton and in some past years, like in Lemoyne last year was in league. They get and when there have been new teams in the past that have come in, they've been independent for a couple of years. Iona as a new program now in year one. This is one of the questions we got. What were realistic expectations of in year one? Well, that is a different question, but they know year one off the bat they can play for the bid. So. Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, we have to look at. I don't know if there's the reclassification. No, they're not playing reclassification. They're not like the D2. They can play for the bid.
Yeah.
So that's a big factor. I think 100% is opportunity is there for everyone this year in a way that it hasn't been for some teams. Because I was just mentioned a bit there was some teams like the reclassification teams had to sit out the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
A couple years there, so every team has a bite at the apple this year.
It's a buy-in, it's something, a goal, and we always say, just get in your conference tournament. Who knows what's going to happen? You get in, and then it's just gotta, have a great weekend, and all of a sudden you're dancing or at least playing in the playing game, which is in and of itself a great achievement, especially for teams who are like an Iowa. It would be probably outside of the realm of possibility if they won and got in, but it just, as you said, it's there's no reason to not think that, hey, this could happen, because you're in the conference now and everyone has this buy-in factor of just okay, we have our non-conference games that we want to win, but it's when it's conference time, that's when it's really the time for us to kind of really focus. And if chips fall in a certain way and you make your conference tournament, then you're just playing with house money, especially if you weren't expected to be there by others. So yeah, hope springs eternal. It's another great part about the beginning of the season.
100%. Before we dive into some of the games, a couple notes, and before we really get started with the show, wanted to bring this up on the live show. Oversight on our end. Apologies. Wanted to send our condolences to the family of Pete Medhurst, who passed away last week. Pete Medhurst was a no member in the sports community, especially here in the state of Maryland. He did a lot of commentary for games for the Naval Academy. And in the lacrosse community, he was known as a commentator at times on Big Ten Network. He filled in on many occasions for Joe Beninati. But he was a hugely respected sportscaster and just more of that, a hugely respected person. You can tell just the outpourings of messages on social media and throughout anywhere if you saw it. If you I know some people are not still on social media, but probably anywhere throughout the media, newspapers, anything like that. If you have seen it, you can tell the amount of respect that people have for Pete Medhurst, who passed away. And so we want to send our condolences to his family. He was a tremendous broadcaster. It's always enjoyable to hear him call games. And it was obvious based on the messages that have been sent from people who were lucky enough to work with him and know him that he was even more respected behind the scenes as a person. And so we wanted to just send that message before we dive in here with the rest of his game, with getting into these games and with the rest of the show.
Oh, absolutely, Jake. Yeah, send our condolences to the Medhurst family. I mean, literally, it was considered and called the voice of Navy athletics. Navy sports put a very touching tribute up there. But yeah, if you're a lacrosse fan, you obviously heard Pete's voice doing the play-by-play. But he had his a hand in pretty much almost every single sport out there at Navy. Essentially, been 12 years as a voice of Navy football, but had been with Navy radio since 1997. So, essentially a kind of an institution at Navy, and understandably why he's touched so many people, and his loss is being felt by many. So, yeah, just echo what Jake said. Lovely comments, and our best to the Medhurst family.
One more note we had, just kind of news and notes before we dive in here. The coaches poll dropped. It's always like it always pops me the blatant lacrosse coach poll. Like, what a name for blatant lacrosse. What? I don't know, man. Anyhow, the USI coaches poll has come out. Unsurprisingly, Notre Dame is at number one. The main difference, I suppose, I noticed was Cornell is number two in the coaches poll. Syracuse did get a vote for number one. So Cornell was number two, but they did not get a vote for number one. Syracuse was three, and they did. I wonder who voted Syracuse number one.
Can you vote for yourself?
You can't. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe Kate just believes in the squad.
Maybe Corrigan.
Just
that could be it. They get a vote.
Hey, boys, somebody here doesn't believe in you, even though you're the two-time defending champs. It's like the calls come from inside the house.
I don't think so. We did the Pablo Vojic. I don't think that, I don't think that's no. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. So in the media poll, Notre Dame is 1, Syracuse is 2, Cornell is 3, and Cornell has 1 first place vote, but Syracuse has none. In the coaches poll, it's the other way around. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
How about that? That's very interesting. Overall, though, the main thing I noticed about while looking through the poll is I believe, folks, that we have poll herding on our hands. This is the one and only time I'm going to reference the prior election. on this show. Back before, like, you may have heard, like, there was a reference to, like, pole herding, basically just like, it was like a thing in the, I guess kind of like the among like statisticians and things like that. Basically, like when polls would be released and it's all like funnels to like one kind of a similar result. I feel like that's what we're getting here. If you look at, let me see if I can share, present a screen. Let me see. This will be up for those of you who are on. Yes, I got it. So those of you who, when we upload this to YouTube. So you'll notice Notre Dame number 1 across the board. After that, though, Cornell 3rd, 2nd, and 3rd. This is the cross commission, our top 20 coaches poll is here, and then the Inside Lacrosse media poll. Then you have Princeton 4th, 5th, 4th. You got Virginia 6th, 4th, and 6th. Maryland 5th, 6th, 5th. Hopkins 7th, 8th, and 8th. You have Duke 8th, 7th, and 8th. Denver 9th, 9th, and 10th. Yale 10th, 10th, 9th. Georgetown identical, same ranking everywhere. Penn State 12th, 12th, and 14th. Army 13th, 13th, and 12th. Penn 14th, 14th, 13th. Towson 15th, 16th, 17th. North Carolina 1 spot difference. Michigan 1 spot difference. Richmond a 2 spot difference. We have St. Joe's ranked. They're not ranked in either other polls. We have Ohio State ranked. They're not ranked in the coaches poll, but they are in the media poll. Harvard is ranked in both other polls. We do not. They are essentially, I think, 21st in our poll. Lehigh is not ranked in the media poll, but they're like 22nd in ours, and they're 20th in the coaches poll. The biggest difference you're getting here is Harvard would be 21st in our poll, and they're 18th in the media poll. That's 3 spots. And then, I guess over here we have the USA Lacrosse Magazine. They have Towson 11th. That would probably be the biggest difference. I don't know who does USA Lacrosse Magazine's poll, how they construct theirs. I know they have multiple writers on their site. I don't know if it's one person who does it, if it's aggregate of their writers. The biggest difference you probably find is Towson at 11th, and that's probably 6 spots maybe compared down to the coaches and media polls. Basically, what I'm saying here is we've got herding. Was I not sharing that the whole time?
I saw it there, but I didn't see it.
Oh my gosh! All right. Anyhow, I think I was. I don't know if I was. That's bad. Yeah, man. Anyhow, you might be seeing it now, folks. Hopefully, seeing the video on my end. You can see it now on the video end. If you see here, there's just not a lot of difference in these teams and their rankings. I don't know why this is. I think I believe that when we actually get to games and there's results, you remember 2 years ago. Now, granted, what happened with this was eventually things shrunk, and you had Notre Dame and Duke and Virginia rise to the top and put a vice grip on those top 3 spots. But we had February really blow things up. Hopkins beat Georgetown. Loyola beat Maryland and Hopkins back-to-back. February just put I think Virginia lost a couple games early. February was kind of crazy. There was a chaos. We kind of talk about like chaos in February.
Mm-hmm.
And that made the polls kind of go wonky for a while. We have to, we had to really put our heads to it where to rank teams. I think we'll get that. I hope we do. Because I will be honest, I kind of look at this. I'm like, this is kind of boring. It's the same poll. You look at it, and now again, some of this I do think is preseason, but I also just kind of wonder. I don't know. What else is going on here within ours? I just kind of wonder. Do we all just kind of put our poll in at the same time, and do we just kind of look at each other's? Because we all do, like we do, as you can tell, like we do it in a spreadsheet, and do we all just kind of look at each other's and go, I don't know, I don't want to be the odd person out, and. Is it that kind of effect? And also, as we've mentioned before, we all talk about it so much that we just do, like we just kind of like we just vibe check ourselves into.
There is a peer review process. It's just like, what the hell are you doing?
I've begun to wonder if maybe we've peer reviewed ourselves too much. Like, listen, maybe we can stick with our convictions a little bit.
I hear that. I would love to see that they don't have to put the names out, but the standard deviation of the inside lacrosse media poll. That would be interesting. See if there was again, just make them nameless, but put them out there. That'd be kind of cool. And with the coaches, but
does it feel like there's fewer people release their ballots than they used to?
Yeah, there's that for sure. I mean, I don't know if I consciously did. I just a little bit busy. I just stopped doing. Maybe I'll just do it again this year. Tweet them out and put them on Instagram. But I think there was that. People were going on your head. People were people came at me for a little bit.
That's for sure. I feel like you always did a good job of doing it.
Yeah, again, shout out Bulldogs.
And I mean, to be fair, I post yours through I put the spreadsheet out Monday morning or Monday afternoon when I tweet the poll out. So you can find safes every when our poll goes out and I tweet the graphic for Ryan and I put our average, our individual ballot, safes is in there. So
shout out to Chris. Chris still puts up his every week for the most part.
And Chris is also in here. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah, but in terms of like individual, you're right. There's definitely seems a lack of it. But I think there's also the nature of the sport. There's just like less teams like playing. So
this is true, 100%. Yes,
it's like when we're doing, as I kind of always said, like us doing a top 20 in lacrosse is the equivalent of doing like a top 90 in NCAA basketball. Just given the amount of action. So I think there's part of that. Because with NCAA football, there's a lot more teams, but maybe there's not as much movement. But like teams are kind of competitive enough where you do see a lot of changes and differing opinions. And but I think maybe the lack of number of teams total like kind of helps to make it so you kind of see the usual suspects in the usual positions.
All right. That's interesting. Again, I think that when we get some games, if it is as wide open maybe as we expect, we'll get diversity in this. I hope we get that. And I think I'm going to maybe push myself to herd a little less. No, as I was doing it, I just found even when I was putting it together, I'm like, geez, like this, it's the same thing. And again, it's not that I wasn't putting them in the order that I felt. But and it's also this is how we do it. We do these. Me and Safe have done these shows together for how long? When we talk about the teams together, you to a degree just start to share.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I went through a 3-year stretch where I maybe after the first 2 weeks I didn't have Maryland, but I had Maryland just because I was like, this was deep Maryland. This was 2001, 2002, those two seasons. I was just like Maryland. It ended up being right. It was mostly because I was like talking to you every week, at least once, twice, and then the DM. That's just like, and the 2021 season, that was the one season where we just stand up because there was like the ACC just like drumbeat throughout this. This is the superest team of
And
all
maybe,
teams all time.
and to some degree, maybe we pushed ourselves into the other corner.
Yeah, and I think it was like we were like, hey, it's not that Ember doesn't have any clothes, but it doesn't have all the clothes you guys think they have. And it was just like it seemed like just such an outlandish thing. It was like I remember like people were saying, I was like, no, there's no way Maryland deserves a 1 seed. I was like, I don't know, man. I was just like, they seem to be killing everybody. And then
I think a good example of this on that one, I think we were right. I mean, and look, I mean, they were terrific. I think a good example was the 22 thing with everything with Notre Dame. We're just, I think in some cases, like we pushed ourselves too far just because of the like online reaction. Just going into 23, we were just like we just started, we just talked to ourselves.
I remember with us and Mark, the run up. It's just like, are we seeing? Why is everyone's like?
Well, no, that part.
Not just Duke is going to make it; they're going to host the game.
But then going into 23, we had just talked to ourselves so much about it. Like we should have divorced ourselves from the whole thing and looked at the team itself. And like, you know what? That team is going to be pretty great. And look, I mean, we ranked them relatively high. I mean, it's not like we weren't. We had them in the top 10, so it's not as if we weren't high on them. But we probably could have been higher on them and seen their improvement coming more if we had a different, voice on this. It's just things you kind of point out, and when you tell them, just trying to point out, your biases. And look, people tell us, like people point out to us or try and call us on some of our biases. Like, yes, like we're aware of it, but
we said impartial. We said objective.
Like we're not. It's not. It obviously. Those are going to cloud our opinion to some degree. I think we'd like to think we do a decent job of protecting against them as much as we possibly can. And we watch, tons of games, every weekend, as we'll do this weekend. And we got some good ones on tap, hopefully to watch. Excited again. Weather looks pretty promising. Stay away. There might be some snow on the ground in some of these places. Maybe it'll be fully melted. We got some nice sunshine today. But if not, it'll be certainly not a factor in the games by any means. Let's start safe with some appetizers. How about Iona in their debut in men's Division I lacrosse? I will text Ryan to get the full official nomenclature correct on this one for the purposes of the podcast. But Iona is hosting Hofstra, 12 p.m. Eastern, ESPN Plus. Safe. This also was a question that we got from a great, loyal, longtime listener, Mike Johnson, _2 on Twitter. He wonders, what are Iona's expectations in season one? What maybe can we expect from them here? What can be an expectation for them against Hofstra in game one, their first time out? Hofstra in 2025 is coming off a 6-9 season. They won their last two games to end 2024, but they missed the CAA tournament a year ago. They had a tough run at one point in which they went 1-8. They had a 1-8 stretch. They started 3-1 and won their last two, but at one point they went 1-8 in the middle of 2024. This is a team that does have some promising young or returning pieces on the roster, the Pride. But as we've talked about for a long time here, they do lose Griffin Turner went to the transfer portal. He was one of their big scorers, but they returned John Madsen, Rory Jones. After that, they lose Justin Sykes, Colton Rudson on the offensive end. Some pieces gone. Sean Henderson returns in goal. and they lose Chase Patterson at the face-off dot. So it's up and down. And again, it's something we've talked about for a long time with this program. It's been a lot of years just kind of circling in motion. So you've got one program that's kind of been on the hamster wheel for a while, and you've got one program that's full of optimism going in, a real sort of dichotomy here in this first game. What can we kind of expect from Iona, and maybe where's Hofstra at going into 2025?
You know who I was thinking as a comp, Jake? I was thinking like LIU, because Iona's like, it's not a. I'm not trying to diss him or anything, but it's not like it's not Alabama. It's not like but it's a school like someone said Iona to most kids in Northeast, and like I think you would have heard of it, maybe because of the basketball program or not, but like it's and their ability, as you noted, to be able to start out their season in their own natural conference and being able to compete for the conference. I think like that maybe puts them in a better position than a team that has to start out as an independent and fight their way into a conference. Other reason why I kind of like think like probably, I'm not saying like they make the tournament or whatever, but like they're in New York. Yeah, there's New Rochelle. We got to talk to Ryan about his thoughts of Westchester over the weekend. But like, I think is a natural like hotbed, New York State in general. So there's a lot of just people playing lacrosse, maybe at a D2, D3 schools that like, hey, there's now a new Division I team that you can play for and potentially like start competing for conference tournament appearances and potentially even NCAA appearances. Like I think that is a selling factor, and kind of saw that with St. Bonaventure. There's a ton of teams in New York. I mean, I don't know, double the number of Maryland, but it feels like that, right? I mean, if you count them all up, like maybe we can do that on the fly here.
I will, if you keep.
I'll keep vamping. No worries, I'll keep vamping. But like, it feels like, it's just like that the market could still sustain another team. New York's a huge state. A lot of people are playing lacrosse. A lot of people maybe wanted to play Division I. Not that many schools, and like I said, all of a sudden there's one maybe in your backyard or within like 45 or an hour and a half driving distance for your parents, so they can see you. Like I think that's a selling factor, and like like I said, like kind of looking at schools like LIU, St. Bonaventure. I mean, they didn't come out of the gates humming, but they didn't go through like those 0-13, 1 and 12, those kind of like ignominious like starts the season for new teams. So again, I'm not expecting Iona to break out and make a conference tournament and NCAA tournament this May, but 4 wins, like I don't think that's out of the question. Just given, like I said, like then you see some of these, rock star new programs, the Richmonds out there, Jacksonville to an extent, I Point to an extent. Like they're not world beaters out of the gate, but they're competitive, and I think that's what, if you're an Iona fan, like I think that's what you can look for. It's like, hey, we're going to be competitive in some of these games, or maybe we end up winning some of these games, and like anything between 3 and 6, I think is a super reasonable goal. If you get to 500 your first year, that means you're going to have a good chance to make the conference tournament. So, like I said, at worst, bare minimum 3 wins up to 500. And if you make it 500, good chance you're making your conference tournament, which in any definition is a massive success for a brand new team.
All right, Safe. There's 19 Division I men's programs in New York.
How many's Maryland? 8?
7.
Yeah, it's almost triple the number. I know Maryland, New York, and maybe that's the population difference as well. But it's like, maybe I think the market can take another one. And like I said, especially for like city kids or maybe shout out Ryan on the island, like New Rochelle, it's like only about like 15, 20 miles from Manhattan. So if you went to some of these schools and maybe you didn't get into a D1 school and you're thinking of a D2 route, D3 route, like if you're good enough and you want to play on a Division I level, Iona being there as an option, hey, that's just saying. Like
In the MAC alone, it's Canisius, Iona, Manhattan, Marist. That's what else we got? Siena. So that's 5, half the conference.
Empire State just carrying college lacrosse. When you think about it,
Yeah, I mean you got a 9-team league, half's in New York. If you look at their schedule, they've got let's see, let me find put up cross-reference pro. See if I can get Iona on here. They have all right, there we go. All right. And this time I will add to stage. There we go. Cross-reference pro. Make sure to subscribe. Just sharing the schedule here. But Zach does great work. So make sure to subscribe. You get lots of great stuff there. They're going to play Hofstra. So just games where they have, we'll do, Hampton, pretty big win probability there. On that one, that you put likely there. Mount at the end of the year. That's a likely one. I wouldn't give him Jacksonville, but Manhattan above 50%. I think you put Hampton and Mount at, because Mount last year was 1-14. I mean, currently can see that one. Hampton, you can see that one. That's 2 wins. Then you've got, after that, you got a bunch of games here in the 40% range. Navy, I think, would be unlikely. LIU in 2024 was a really good team. That, I think, shade is unlikely. VMI is a tricky one. VMI was a really improved team, but in the past, they've been a team more trending towards the bottom. There's a lot of games in here. Marist, Quinnipiac. There's a lot of games in MWC play where you look at some of these programs. I mean, I'm high on Siena this year. Sacred Heart, of course, Varsity won the conference tournament. Some of these teams have had really good years, and so you don't want to be too hasty in saying that's a game Iona can win. But on the other hand, we know the nature of this league, and you can go down the elevator shaft really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it comes down to what Chad Sermon and that staff can do off the bat. Can you just nail the fundamentals down, and can you establish a high floor? Can you get good face-off play off the bat? This is the key with young programs, and especially what can kill teams. New staffs too. For young programs, new staffs, what can kill you? Bad face-off play. I don't mean we're not good at face-offs. I mean bad face-off play. Can you get to 45%? If you get to 50%, all bets are off. If there's a good fogo on this team, dude, they could be in business. But can you get if there when there's not face-off play is, I think we kind of underreported. We always focus on face-off play with like the tournament teams, and the face-off they're so important. Like we focus on like the margins where they're so big. It's the big face-offs. You know what really matters? Go watch some of these teams in these leagues where they have a face-off guy who wins 38%. Dude, that's where it matters. There's not 70 Division I quality face-off guys. There's some teams where they don't have a face-off guy on the like a true face-off guy on the roster.
Oh yeah, some good teams.
There's it's fair, but like there's some teams who just do not have it, and it kills their season. Remember, like Providence a couple of years, like Bobby's first year, they didn't have a face-off guy. They were the Big East, and they had a really good team. They could score goals. They didn't have a face-off guy. So
he's got them with a 45% chance of winning 9 of these games. That's great if you're a first-year team. Like,
some of these I put a bit. I don't. Yeah, Jacksonville, I think that's high. Navy, I put a bit high. Maybe an LIU, but
it stood out there. Yeah.
But like Mount, yeah. I mean, I could see 100%. Hampton, yeah. Manhattan, yeah. I mean, I can see some of these. I can see. And again, I think that can you get good, just solid face-off play? Get to 45%. Be in the game. Can you get good goalie play? Don't have it sink you. Get a guy in goal who can make saves for you. Get close to 50%. Shoot the ball clear. Can you clear the ball off the bat? Nail down these face-offs, clear, and goalie play. And if you have a team that can do these things off the bat at a pretty decent clip, then if your team is 50th in offensive and defensive efficiency, okay, you're already a Division I team. There you go. You are a Division I team in year one. That's what you're looking for. Don't let the other stuff kill you. Do you have a Division I quality roster? We'll find. We want to find out is the question. If you can't win faceoffs and you can't get saves and you can't clear the ball, we'll never find out because you'll be behind the 8 ball already. But if they can do those things, we'll see because they'll be able to be in the games. I think that's a good question against Hofstra. They're not going to beat Hofstra, but can they be competitive on faceoffs off the bat? Can they get some saves to keep this a manageable game? This is probably going to be a low-scoring game. It's February. Hofstra's not a team that generally runs and guns, runs the score up. Hofstra's, they play a slower pace. Can you clear the ball? Teams don't generally – clearing the ball is always tough for February, but teams don't also really ride that hard in February either. Can you do those things off the bat? That's what I think you should look for.
I agree. Next on the appetizer, a little closer to home here, Lehigh Rutgers. Jake, I don't know what to make of this Rutgers team and this place in the Big Ten because Big Ten seems like a bit chance to be a little bit more open, and maybe Penn State has some stuff to figure out without Malone. Hopkins having a new offensive coordinator, new offensive look. Ohio State kind of being potentially a dark horse or a team on the come up, but still needs to prove that. But Rutgers similarly just feels like kind of spinning their wheels the last couple seasons. So kind of interested to see what they're doing there up Piscataway with Lehigh, making a great run to the tournament after losing your head coach to Virginia with Cassis, dipping from the Mountain Hawks to go down to UVA. And I thought that was a great story for Lehigh. It's just as we always say, do you have a sequel in you? Yeah, you got, you're going to be able to come back and maybe now not be as much of a surprise. Going to have some, but everyone has tape on players, but now you're kind of have some tape on coach as well, just seeing, how they react to what the strategies and they employed in their first year to be able to counteract that in the second year. Patriot League still has like kind of an open field to it. I think, Army should still be kind of the class of the conference along with BU, but Lehigh, they kind of want to show that they're built for the distance, and having a strong start to the season as opposed to what they did last year, kind of coming back, towards the end. They can maybe just steal this one from Rutgers. I think like I said, it just always kind of feel like Rutgers is kind of known as transfer you for a little while. Hit 2021 and getting into the tournament, and then into the Final Four. Going from Elite Eight into the Final Four, definitely. I think they'll look back at that and say we'll take that again. But since then, kind of experience. So just maybe this is kind of the thing. Transfer stuff is great, but building from within and just getting one or two key pieces is more the not maybe one or two, but maybe less than like the double digits that they sometimes get every off season.
Yeah, I mean, it was the strategy when we're getting the guys that we're getting early on. It wasn't a question, I think but what is it certainly felt like there was a diminishing returns aspect to it last year. I would say, especially I think because you look at not all the guys on the roster necessarily, young guys roster can have this impact, but like a young guy, like young goalie like Carden Stoller, he was tremendous for them in goal. And you maybe want to feel like you just trust I think it's just, overall the trends on that on that team are pretty clear. Their offense peaked in 2021, and it's gotten worse 4 years now. They've gone from 3rd to 8th to 30th to 31st. Now still 3rd to 8th, 2022. I think the 21 team was probably better than the 22 team, but the draw was better. And they took advantage of it. And they finished. Look, they used the experience they gained from 21 and 22, and they won the fourth quarter in 22. The 22 team was slightly better defensively than the 21 team. 23, they were still pretty strong defensively. They went from 7th to 14th. They held up there. And also, I think 23, you could maybe say with the loss with goal, with the dip they had in goal, you could maybe say they still held up really well defensively that year. But last year, even with the improvement in goal, they went from 23rd in save percentage to 9th. They still dropped to 29th in defensive efficiency. I think the tough thing you really feel for them is they have made improvements on faceoff the last couple of years, and that was a weakness for them in those couple deep runs. Goalie play, they're back. Obviously, that was a strength for them with a couple of years with Kirst. Carden Stoller is a terrific goalie. He's going to be a guy you can bank on for the next couple of years. Face-off is a question. They lose both of their main face-off guys for last year. They do bring in Ethan Barnard from Bowdoin. He was a tremendous face-off guy there. Again, it's a question of can you scale up? We've seen more teams do this, kind of going to the lower levels to get face-off guys. I think this is kind of this in terms of the trend. I think one of our listeners, I'll have to get his Twitter handle, but he mentioned this last year. that this is where you'll continue to see, and like goalie too, where you'll continue to see the transfer portal. I think more teams, unless you are a like stud freshman Fogo goalie, I don't think teams are taking their chances. They will go and find someone out there, D2, D3, or they will take a transfer. They're going to want proven experience at that level. They're not going to take the we'll see if we'll like roll the dice with the young guy. I don't think you're going to see that. You see like Hopkins losing Chase Yearlin. They went and got Luke Stout from Loyola. They did not decide to take a chance with the younger guy. They went. Cuse is now Jimmy McCool is a guy he's not like they were in on Stout, but he's not he's a guy who's been in the program for a couple of years. So and Rutgers here, like they go from get a guy from Badoin. And so I think that's kind of how you're going to see it. Otherwise, on that roster, there's still talent. There's still some talent. Credill's a really good player, but you lose Knobloch and Scott, because again, it's kind of like key pieces. Knobloch was, gosh, he was a beast. Do everything kind of player. Do you return more pieces on the defensive end of things? But I don't know what to make of it. I think that to me, when you look at this roster, it feels like it's going to have to be what it was back in 16 or 15, 16, 17. Guys are just going to have to break out. You're just going to need some guys to come through the way that Sherilyn Beatties did, the way that Mullins did, but then the way later on that, Georgine Felix did. Guys are just going to have to break out and emerge and win their spot and become 3-4 year, the way Knobloch, a 3-4 year player for this program. And that's where I think take a lump for a year or two, but let those guys get that experience and come through, maybe rather than try and piece it together with transfers who are not going to give you the return that the Camerons and Bartolos did, let alone that we know the Curse did. That's where I think you can kind of maybe propose in the strategy. There's nothing to critique about what they did in 21 or 22. It brought the program the best success they've ever had. Rutgers got, if you told someone in 2015 they were last in the Big Ten. If you told someone like, hey, 6 years from now or 7 years from now, Rutgers is going to make the Final Four, they call you insane. So there's no criticism about that. But so it's going to take, and hey, I think we talked about this. I think someone from the Big Ten is going to surprise. I do. It could be someone is better. It could be someone at the top is better than we think. Or it could be one of these teams more to the bottom. I do think there's going to be a surprise the way Penn State kind of was in 2023. Maybe it is them. But the surprise I don't think is going to be kind of transfers you brought in are better in like year 4 and year 5 of their careers than they've been before. I think it's going to be young guys. And so I think you got to let those guys play.
Are we going with that now, our first course, or we're going to go with the lunch theme for our next set?
Just first course. Yeah. What do you think? What are you gonna be eating for lunch on Saturday?
Jake, I'm gonna go with that Maryland Richmond sub.
All right.
That one historically has been an interesting one when it's at at Richmond.
Yes,
Maryland's taking care of business when they are playing in College Park. Still, just same kind of talk. Some of our points were our Big Ten pod and our A10 pod about these two teams in particular. Definitely, just some interesting things that I'm looking forward to see. Just Maryland, again, just Tillman's always tinkering. He's got a couple of key pieces coming in from transfers, some changes in the offensive. Just from listening to you, of like we're expecting to see some people play. Just always interesting to see what Maryland's doing, just because they're just kind of like one of these teams that everyone uses as a bar of success. And Tillman just such a phenomenal coach. But Chamati, also looking forward to see what he does with the Spiders. It's just like just been so consistent during his time there that we have just kind of institutional trust in him and what he's done at Richmond, and to the point where it was like that's why they're they're in the lacrosse hotbed, and Virginia, so teams want to play in that state, to potentially get recruits. But like they're good enough now to get these teams to come down to Richmond to play these home games. Whether or not they actually bite that apple when it's in front of them, but getting that apple to begin with is tough enough for a lot of teams that being able to get these like high quality opponents on the schedule. So again, just a testament to how good Richmond has been for an extended period of time and how consistent they've been, that they're able to get these series with teams like Maryland pretty regularly now. But I'm a little more concerned about what we're going to see for Loyola. So that's why, like in a competitive sense, like even though I think Maryland should win, I think maybe a closer game in quotes than the what we'll get in Georgetown and Loyola. But yeah, that's kind of why I'm going right for Maryland and Richmond for this first course. Just always interested in seeing what Tillman has. Just want to see what the new Maryland squad and what Big Ten teams and fans are going to have to expect when they come to play them. But like I said, Richmond as well. I think they'll put a good effort as always. Like, but be a little bit of a spicier first course if it was maybe at Richmond, just given historically how tightly they played the Terps down there when they're playing them at home.
Yeah, the game last year, I mean, that was like a trip to the dentist. They felt like we were under anesthesia watching that one. Pretty brutal, in all honesty. A couple years ago, the one in 23, Maryland just destroyed them, and it felt like the Terps were. I was feeling back. I was going back to back. I was safe. I mentioned Braden Erksa. I was like, safe. You got to give me this one. And I mean, Fair had a great year as a freshman, but it felt pretty good. So. And then Maryland's had a couple big ones. It's been an interesting game. Both teams have question marks on the offensive side of the ball, losing some heavy hitters, and that they will need to replace. Maryland, less so, obviously, with guys of 2022, but still production that, and Maryland's heavy hitters are more the Weirman and Zapatello end of things. On the offensive side of the ball, it's guys like Jack Horace, who was a great do-it-all midfielder, great off-ball guy. The Molliver one's interesting. You kind of have to look at. He's now at Duke. Syracuse and Maltz. I mean, those were guys were their two best players in the Duke game. The quarterfinal win. Richmond, offensively, you lose Dalton Young, you lose Lance Madonna, you lose Luke Graham. So how does Richmond replace those pieces? I think that's, if you are taking the position that Richmond has questions to answer and maybe we've been like a little too high on them, that's it. It's that, what does their offense look like having to replace big time pieces like that? For Maryland, how does the offense look? There's kind of been word it will look like Spanos at attack is a definite. Daniel Kelly probably at attack. He played there last year, and he's got a spot on the lefty wing. Who else plays there? I don't know. Erks has played some attack, and in the last couple weeks in some of the scrimmages as well, he's also played some midfield. Obviously, we know he's played attack a lot his first 2 years. He also played more midfield in the tournament. I think midfield is his best spot. However, you also can make the case that at the midfield position for Maryland, what they have really lacked the last 2 years is outside shooting. I mean, it's, go forward like a month or so, maybe a little longer than that. And that's like the first time I started mentioning, hey, man, go forward about a month and go back 2 years, in 2 years. That's the first time I mentioned on this program. Man, Maryland is really not good at shooting. And it remained a problem for all of 2023, and it remained a problem for 2024. And outside shooting has been a thing. They have not been able to stretch teams shooting the ball. Teams did not respect their outside shooters. They haven't had guys who can. And what happens is, and you'll see it when you watch them. The ball it just gets sloughed in and sloughed in and sloughed in when they play off it, and that's why you'll see so many possessions with them where the ball just gets thrown into the crease and in the inside in its possessions. There hasn't been obviously a Wisnauskas type shooter on that offense. There hasn't been an Anthony DeMeo. There hasn't been guys who the ball gets up top to them, and opponents feel like they got to stretch out to them. This year, they brought in Noah Armitage from Stony Brook. They brought in Jack Dowd from Salisbury. 2 guys who look like they are true outside shooting threats. This is also like Maryland's man up the last couple of years. Not good. So, again, like what do you need on man up? You need a guy on the crease. You need guys on the outside to hit shots. They haven't had it. They have Maltz kind of like on the crease, and Maltz, good shooter. Maltz was a more kind of, wing shooter a little bit. Maltz could shoot on, the run at times. It was a quirky kind of shooter. They need guys who can hit outside shots. Well, if they got guys, go ahead, Safe.
No, I was just saying my son wasn't doing that last year.
No, he was not. I mean, look, I got the numbers. 2024, they're – let me see if I can pull them up. Give me one moment. Shooting percentage, 34th, 29%. Shots on goal percentage, they got 65% on goal. They were 21st. Their shot efficiency percentage, this was just like, kind of like the quality of their shots, 36th. Not very good. Adjusted shooting percentage, 12th, better. A lot of that is because they shot very well in the tournament. Their adjusted shooting percentage was below, before the NCAA tournament, was teetering very low, almost below 30% before the NCAA tournament. It was bad. They were 29%. They were 29%. Overall. I mean, it was before the Penn State. If you look at the chart on the Cross Reference Pro before the NCAA tournament, dude, it was it's bad. It's bad. The regular season. In 2023, the numbers are Let me find it. And the offense was better overall the whole season in 2023 than it was in 2024. They shot about the same, 29.3%, which was 44th in the country in 2023 in shooting percentage. And adjusted shooting percentage, they were 30.4%, ranked 28th. And they were 38% in terms of shots on goal percentage, amount of shots they got on goal. So that's been a problem. So if you have two guys there who you think can hit outside shots, those might be two guys you want to have on the midfield. And then maybe you want Urksa at attack. These are all questions that are going to be interesting to find out. Then where does a guy like a Bryce Ford fit in from Fairfield? Matthew Keegan from Binghamton. Ford feels like a guy who had the ball in his stick a lot at Fairfield. Lefty, feels like a guy you'd want more at attack. Urksa feels like a guy I think fit better at midfield. Interesting questions. Spencer Ford,
my boy,
recruit who a lot of folks want to see get playing time, and I understand this. Maryland hasn't had Urksa broke out early on, but he was not like a recruit that got a lot of hype. I mean, he was a reasonable, he was a 4-star, I think, like top 100 guy, but he wasn't like a big time recruit. The 5-star, like Spencer Ford, I think is like the number 3 recruit in the country. So Maryland hasn't had one of those guys in a minute. I guess Trader was the guy, and his career, he's had a different kind of career.
Matty Rambo. That's awesome. Matty Rambo. That's like the super high recruit.
Spanos, kind of to a degree, but then he redshirted because I think the year he came in was the. I think he redshirted 20 because his freshman year was 22, which you won't get on the field that year. So,
grab a clipboard, son. Grab a smartboard.
So at that point, you kind of got to go back. Molliver would be probably the last guy you got to go back to, and certainly, I mean, he came in and produced quite a bit. I mean, and this is on the offensive end, I would say. Like defensively, they've had guys who play well. Yeah. But on the offensive end, it's been quite a minute you've had to go back. I was Bubba.
Oh yeah,
Bubba's the last guy, and that went in a different direction. I mean, great career, but went in a different direction. Jared would maybe the last who kind of had that sort of arc in the kind of career. So Ford is a guy a lot of people are, and look, it doesn't matter. I mean, they've had two guys, like Logan came in as a transfer and won the Touraton. Who cares really? But people are certainly anticipating Spencer Ford. He's a guy who I believe will have a tremendous career. If watching his game, I mean, like me and Adam kind of like we're talking about, he feels like a Stanwyck. Just if you watch him play, like that's the comp that comes to mind. Like he's a coach's son. Like he knows the game. It makes every time great pass, off ball, tremendous. In a pick game, like he'd be phenomenal. He's going to put up buckles once. He's not the fastest guy. Foot speed is like the question with him, but you could put him off ball. Like he could play off ball right now, and he'd probably be great. The same way that Shaq Stanwyck played, like as a freshman. Shaq Stanwyck was great as a freshman for Hopkins, primarily playing off ball, sort of, and playing 2-man games with his brother, because he was smart enough to do that. Like that's what he did. He was smart enough to play as a pick man with Wells and be a passer to Ryan Brown. That was his job. And look, that is a hard job for a freshman. Like it's not easy to tell a freshman you're going to be a pick man in 2-man games and then be feed Ryan Brown. You know, like that's not an easy job in an offense. They did have like the infrastructure to kind of put him into that because they had Wells Stanwyck and Ryan Brown. A super smart, Wells Stanwyck's got a supercomputer for a brain, as all Stanwicks did. And then Ryan Brown's like one of the 10 best shooters of all time. But again, like Shaq was able to do that as a freshman, kind of playing off ball. Spencer Ford can play off ball probably right now. Like he's smart enough to do it. He could play on the crease. He's got great hands. He can do it. I think he can shoot. He's that kind of player. When he was talking, they did an interview with him. He talked about like 5 years instead of 4. Next year, Maryland's got other big time recruits coming in. They got Matt Higgins, who he seems like the guy they're like super, super high on. He feels reminiscent of a guy like Connor Cannizzaro behind the X. And Maryland hasn't had a guy like that. It's like a true like ex-attackman quarterback of an offense in a long, long time. So do you maybe choose to do that? And I think it's just an interesting question. I think you're kind of point right. If you have a big time recruit like that, play him. And your offense certainly look. They've lacked difference makers on the offensive side of the ball. On the other hand, I think it's fair if you don't think he's ready to play now, is it worth playing him man up and is it worth just finding a role for him, or is it better to redshirt him and put him next year when you can play him alongside a guy who's going to have 4 years with, who you can put where you can match him up with a guy like Higgins, and you think I don't let him gain 10 pounds, 10, 15 pounds, and say, all right, next this point I don't know guys don't generally come in and play. Who was the last freshman who played right away at Maryland? Was Bubba. That was the last guy. It's been the guys who have played right away at Maryland have been that I can think of off the top. Oh, I'm saying for offense. Defense is different. Defense is different. Yeah. Right away, freshmen have been Bubba, Jared, and this is different. This is offense, also midfield. Midfield versus attack is a little different. Bubba, Jared, Rambo, and started. I'm sorry, because a lot of them played second midfield. And it's like, is it worth playing with second midfield? I don't know, maybe. Or is it worth redshirting him? Bubba played 2018. Jared started 2017. Rambo started, and Connor Cannizzaro started.
Oh yeah, Connor.
Oh, he's the lost he's the lost child. He's the lost boy. Those are 4. Like those are different, and that's Rambo, that's Matt Rambo. That's Cannizzaro, was ACC Freshman of the Year that year. And then the next year, when he went to Denver, they won the national championship.
Yeah.
Like he was the missing piece on that Denver. That's Jared, who, remember, the older guys had to tell him he was too respectful of them. Like Rambo and all them were like, dude, you need to like do more. And then Bubba, who, whatever you will say of Bubba in terms of his production, Bubba, as far as his body and physical wise, Bubba was he was a beast. Like Bubba physically was ready to play. Like he had he was ready. He could go, and like midfield. And Bubba could go back and forth 2 ways, and play there as midfielder. So it's a tough thing to do. Now, like, could he play second mid? Could potential Ford play second midfield, man up? I think he could. Again, I think he's smart enough. That's not the question. The question is, I think, the physical grind of making the leap to Division I. Big Ten, man. Big Ten's tough. It's a physical league. It's a physical league, man. Those Hopkins defenders, those Penn State defenders, those Ohio State, Van Buren, they will beat the crap out of you. And is that grind for playing second midfield man up worth it, or is it better Richard? That, I think, is the question.
No. Other than the spectrum, Loyola, Georgetown, I mean, I don't want to be an alarmist for Loyola, but, I do feel like, bit in the wilderness last couple of years. Georgetown, I have always impressed with Warren and just like the run that they've had, and just kind of feel it be continue. Even last year was supposed to be a bit of a step back, and Denver made their push, and the Pios made the Final Four, but Georgetown was still right in there, getting in the tournament again, being a formidable opponent throughout the season. And on the other end, just like Loyola, it just feels like kind of a little bit wayward these last couple seasons, and that's a program that in a school that they really care about. Is their biggest sport.
Oh yeah,
they don't miss the tournament multiple years in a row, often if ever. Now. Yeah, and it's not something I'm sure that's going unnoticed. I mean, that saying that Toomey's seat is warm, but a repeat of the last couple of years, if there's maybe an opportunity that opens up elsewhere, I could see maybe a transition time for the Hounds as well. So yeah, I think this is a real important season. Not saying they got to make back to the Final Four, but
no,
being back actually really in the Patriot League used to just be the Loyola Invitational.
Yeah.
It hasn't been that for a little while. And obviously, no team is going to be on top forever. But, this is a really proud program that, honestly, part of me always thinks that they may be a Big East team in the future. Like, if there's ever further, conference realignment, I was like, I always just thought in my head, I was like, Loyola's Villanova in Maryland, or Georgetown, the academic prestige, but like a, Jesuit school, expensive, has a really good academic reputation. So Loyola's got a lot going for it, but if this is me advocating their case for the Big East. So I'll table that for a while. But I mean, they should just run the Patriot League, and it's just not that case anymore, or at least not for the last few seasons. So a bit of concern if I'm a Hounds fan. Georgetown, I think, it should not have an issue here, but how
February Loyola.
What is that's true. But
game's not a Ridley, but still.
I do want to, how they look will be interesting. We'll just leave it at that.
This it's tricky because on the one hand, Loyola returns like nothing in some ways. Like offensively, goals 25%, assists 22%, total production offensively 30, or total production in general 32%, defensive games played under 50%, points 25%. On the other hand, you're looking at that team, and the offense was better. They were 20th in adjusted offensive efficiency. So the offense wasn't the problem per se. I mean, the defense has been the fall off. Loyola 2 seasons ago was 50th in adjusted defensive efficiency. Imagine saying that about a Charlie Toomey defense. last 2 years, a major problem has been their faceoffs they've been terrible on faceoffs. I mean, they've been 61st and 64th in adjusted faceoff percentage. I mean, they have just not had any sort of solution at the faceoff dot. Eric Pacheco's won 44%. Carson Hall's won 38%. And this has been where you can kind of potentially point to we talk about the Patriot League with the transfers. They haven't quite been able to plug like an obvious the way another team would. Just like go in and like grab a guy. That's, I think, a fair point that you could kind of say is I think it's 100% fair to say that this era has not been kind to Loyola in the overall conditions of the last couple of years have not been kind to Loyola. The concerning thing is that, like you said, the Patriot League used to be the Loyola, Invitational, and their drop-offs has also been. You can also really point to drop-offs, and it's felt acute in Patriot League play. Like they've made good starts out of conference that have then shown up in the Patriot League. It's one you still got to find a face-off guy over the last couple of years in high school and be able to win face-offs in Patriot League play. It's just something you got to be able to do. So that's, I think, where things are particularly damaging for them. It's just been felt all across the board. Kind of I think a similar conversation to what we mentioned with Rutgers. Offensively, they have not had. They lost, obviously, Pat Spencer, and they were not able to really effectively replace that. Obviously, not able to effectively replace that loss. They haven't had a true. You're not going to replace Pat Spencer. But they just haven't had a true quarterback on offense. They haven't had a real guy on offense who you trust with. They've had a lot of good players, Patra, James, but they don't have a guy who, when things go tough, there's not a guy on that Loyola offense who they really, I think you've been able to say, we want the ball in his hands. That's our guy. Like, say if we had this discussion on the Friday show about Jacob Angelis, and I mentioned I thought the Hopkins offense had a fundamental problem of construction. Like Jacob Angelis just had too much responsibility in Hopkins offense, I felt. Nonetheless, whatever you want to say about Hopkins offense, Hopkins made the decision that we didn't have guys who could dodge, and we were going to go with the best guy, the one guy we had who was the best decision maker, the best passer, the most experienced guy. Jacob Angelis was our guy. Loyola hasn't had a Jacob Angelis the last 3 or 4 years. Like, there hasn't been a guy like that. You put Jacob Angelis in Loyola's offense the last 3 or 4 years, that offense looks pronounced better. No question. They haven't had that kind of guy. You can take out a Kevin Lindley. They haven't been able to. They haven't had that kind of guy, an off-ball guy, a shooter.
Yeah,
his offense. They haven't had one of a guy you can look for as a true reliable off-ball. They just have a lot of the same pieces. You look at their obviously assist share for Loyola. They have 5 guys above 12. They have 5 guys above 12% last year. Kamish, James, Minikis, Patra, Lindsay. Shot share. 3 guys took up 15%. Minikis, Patra, James, and then also Matt Houston at 10%. play share, Patra 12%, James 11%, Minikis 9. Like a lot of these guys just do very similar things. They have good players, experience who can pass decently, who are okay shooters, who can all dodge to a decent degree. If you get them on a shorty, they can dodge a shorty, probably not dodge a long pole. Off ball, pretty good players. They're all kind of spare parts in offense. Haven't had a true quarterback. Haven't had a true off ball guy. Haven't had a great outside stretch shooter. It's an offense. Where the true in offense, you need in lacrosse that you can run a lot of different offenses. Every offense needs certain pieces. You need shooters. Like you need guys to shoot the ball. You need a guy to play on the crease. Man up. Like you need a guy on the crease. You know, every offense needs that. Every offense needs a guy who's going to be your guy who takes on a certain amount of responsibility within the offense. Maybe they're not. How much they take on is up to you. They could be CJ Kirst, who's Dodger. It could be Pat Cavanaugh, more passer. Connor Schellenberger, everything. You know, but every guy needs one of those kind of guys. It could be Logan Wisnauskas, doesn't need the ball really much at all. But at the end of the day, like it all kind of flows off of him. You need one of those guys. Loyola, I look at the offense, they don't really have any of these pieces. It's 6 players. And that's scary.
And they're also interconnected. I always, we always talk about the 2022 team and just the way Con was just able to get that separation behind the net that opens that space for that skip pass. And you got Logan, just the Grim Reaper, just right there, just in perfect position, ball's right where it needs to be. But yeah, if you don't have the outside shooter to maybe create the dodger, because then they come up and press you, right?
That's teams are going to slough in towards the crease, and then one guy you're much more able to push towards either Con or either the guy dodging behind the net or the backside guy.
Yeah,
there you go.
It's like they just don't have those weapons. Like kind of,
you're easy to defend. You're very easy to defend.
What did Dan Danowski say in his post today? I don't know if we have anybody here that scares anybody. That's kind of like what I've always just been saying. Kind of, I'd like to know him in years and happy, but the last 2 seasons. But it's kind of a theme. It's like there's no one that terrifies you. I don't think there's anybody on our team last year that made the defensive coordinator. So what are we gonna do here? I mean, like Jacob's a great player. I love him, but that was probably
You're right, but you know what did scare teams? Garrett Degnan shooting the ball.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that's the thing. So it's like now it's like, on the Hopkins, and we'll get to this, is like, can Hunter Chevette, like he needs to be like Hunter Chevette shooting the ball needs to scare teams.
Yeah.
It's like, and for Loyola, they don't have a guy shooting the ball who scares teams. They don't have a guy on the crease. Kevin Lindley on the crease scared teams. That was a worry for teams, was Kevin Lindley on the crease. Pat Spencer out, that scared teams. But they had guys outside, Romar Dennis back then, like they had, or, they would have guys, midfielders, in fact, who, like, when they got the ball up top, they shot it. That scared teams. It's one thing if you don't have individual guys who can scare you when they get the ball. It's difficult to have those players. I think we're going to look at this year, and it could be a question of how many of those guys are there out there. Might not be many, but again, do you have those pieces in the offense that make you difficult to defend? That's the question. You need those pieces, or you need to do things with your offense. Syracuse's offense is a great example. Syracuse's offense, the way they move the ball, when you let Syracuse get into their ball movement and you let them pass the ball, guys are going to get open off of ball movement. And when Syracuse's ball move is really humming, that's a threat. Because everyone on that team can pass the ball. Everyone on that team, when they get in close on the crease, has the handle and is a threat one-on-one with the goalie. Everyone on that team can go behind the back, a tight angle. That's there. So, like, again, it gets back to this other thing. It's 6 guys playing offense, and it's not threatening. What's the Quint face? Non-invasive. That's minimally invasive, maybe, or how he puts it. And even other things like the goalie situation they've had, where they're like pulling 3 different guys are playing goal. I don't know. You're right. It's felt very. I'm just for the word kind of lost a bit, a lot, very lost. I think at times. I go back to that 22 after they lost to Maryland, and they got beat bad, and the Terps did that to teams that year. You just got beaten away, and it was like, kind of deer in the headlights a bit. But Toomey's pressure was a little different. It was like, I got told the guys in that locker room, it was like, I got to go and talk to him. And it's like, man, really? It was kind of like concerning. It's like, man, it's February, dude. It's like, it's just like, listen, again, I remember, like, you saw the game they played against Rutgers. You saw Brecht on the sideline. It's like, jeez, it's just like hit by a bus, But like, look, Rutgers lost that game. They were fine. It's like the way Loyola reacted to that game was like, it was like, dude, like, seriously? I mean, like, I know it's a bad, but like, listen, man, it happens.
The Terrence Howard meme with not Mekhi Phifer, but where he's like, we're worried about you, man. You need some money. Do you need some money?
I don't know. Georgetown, on the other end,
Tay Diggs. Sorry, Terrence Howard and Tay Diggs. I actually love that movie. So right? Yeah.
Offensively, I kind of worry a bit about. On one, they do have Aiden Carroll back. That's big. That's a guy, he's a big piece. That's a dude. I think we didn't have him on the All-American movie. We should have had him on there. But now they lose a lot else. But what I like about them is, I was talking about with Georgetown, a lot of production gone, but at the key spots, big pieces back. On offense, I can look at Aiden Carroll's there. In goal, Anderson Moore back for second year. Defense, Ty Banks. I can look at these pieces. Face off, James Ball back. Now coming from the injuries, you got questions about that. But I can, at least with Georgetown, and see big piece, talented pieces at these positions. Warren, you're going to give Warren Ty Banks, and you're going to give him Seamus Full and some of these other guys defensively, and he's going to do something. You're going to give him a talented guy like Anderson Moore in goal the second year, he's going to do something to that defense. I don't really worry about that. Offense is going to be the question, but look, Carroll, man, that guy's a heck of a player, man. And we've often kind of questioned with them. They had the question, do they have that guy? That was a question for them in even that 22 year. We said the year they should have got to the championship. That was sort of the question for them. And then 23, they got it with Dordovic, and they kind of lost pieces a little bit everywhere else. 24, it became, I think, part of the question for them. Did they have, again, that guy? And Carroll became that down the stretch of the year. If they can rely on him, the other pieces can maybe emerge. It takes time to come through. So I think Georgetown is probably a bit, kind of like last year, probably a work in progress type team throughout the season. But I think we've seen that's not much of a problem for Warren, especially because we know that by the time the Big East comes around, they usually play their best ball. But I like that this is a team they have piece they know they can rely on at spots. They have a goalie. They have a pole, they can put on the other team's best player. Hopefully James Ball is back from injury. They can win some faceoffs. That's a formula Georgetown can work with. If Georgetown can win faceoffs and they can play some defense, Georgetown's going to win ball games.
It's Georgetown ball, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like Georgetown's going to win games. Offensively, yes, they're gonna need to figure some things out. But I like that they got Carroll back, who I think is a really heck of a good player. And they have some other guys who did some things. Patrick Kroger, Jordan Ray. They're gonna need to do a lot more. But they came on at the end of the year, so yes, I like Georgetown. I think they're probably appropriately ranked where they're at, but I can see them moving up toward the end of the year, certainly.
And
Of course.
well, moving out of the DMV area, cross country to the Mile High City, Jake. The Denver Pios take on my beloved Johns Hopkins Blue Jays. Talked a lot about Hopkins last week. Some of my concerns. I love that you helped pull me back from the ledge there from my despondency. And again, I mean, I don't want to rerun everything I was saying, but yeah, that's my main thing. It's just like who's going to step up. If last year's team, the people who didn't see the field, weren't as good as a good to competent to good, maybe very good at times offense, then I'm hoping that they make that development in the offseason that gives them that boost that they didn't have last year. You got a couple of transfers in there. I'm kind of hoping for a big comeback from my boy Russell Melendez. Was definitely what we needed in 2022. 2023 seemed to have a bit of a step back last year. Hopefully, big impact what he had. Milliman, looking forward to seeing him as a fully in control of the offense. Appreciate Crawley's contributions as an offensive coordinator, but there's definitely were chunks of minutes of games where didn't see a good shot, let alone a goal. So and they came back to bite them, in the tournament. Couldn't find that one goal that we needed to just put for Virginia away, and that's why Hopkins didn't make the Final Four. Denver, going to talk about them as well when we did our Big East preview. Also, a good amount in the offseason, but this may be kind of a sign of how great of a coach Matt Brown is if he's able to bring the Pios back into a competitive state in the Big East, maybe playing for that number one seed and return to the tournament. I think that would be a testament to the good job he's done. I always love your great point about we always talk about this about quarterfinal teams. Teams that make quarterfinals usually return is not usually not a one and done type thing. So I don't see Denver falling off the face of the earth this year. Definitely got a string of wins last year that were kind of a coin flip or one play here or there that could have gone the other way. So maybe that law of averages reacts falls against them this year. But like I said, I think they should probably be right up there with Georgetown in terms of battling for the number one seed in the Big East. Don't really see too much other competition in the conference as much as I love Providence and my boy Bobby Benson. But looking see pretty actually low scoring game. I think the altitude, as I always say, East Coast teams going out west having to deal with the altitude, just the manner in which Denver plays, and they're not really looking to run and gun the whole game. And Hopkins you kind of feel, maybe I'm just talking myself into despair, but you kind of see a situation where maybe a couple bad possessions a quarter, all of a sudden things get a little bit tighter for the Jays. Denver has to make up some ground and face off this year, but they're able to control the flow, and they essentially just kind of choke out Hopkins. And it's kind of my biggest fear of this game. But like I said, hope springs eternal, as we started at the beginning of the pod. So Jays are undefeated at this point in the season. So I don't want to wound myself up too much, but just again, it's kind of maybe a theme of the episode. Just interested to see what they look like once they the it's actually go time. So it's kind of where my head's at.
I think faceoffs in some ways might be the biggest kind of that might not maybe the deciding factor of this game, but are one of the real questions. Is a stat I'm gonna keep going back to, but Denver hasn't. If you go back the last 10 years, Denver's worst season, they won like 60% of their faceoffs, which was in 2015 or 2019. That's Denver's worst faceoff season in the last 10 years. The season before that, 2014, Denver's main face-off man was. I just gotta see if I can find that one. Can I find it? Duke. Have to do a tad bit more research, but that's the I think big story there is Denver's had the longest stretch of consistent great face-off play in the country. Now they're without Alex Stathakis, and they didn't go out and get a face-off man in the portal. They're kind of going inexperienced, relatively face-off dot. Look, they coach face-off men great, but so 2014 is the last time you have to go back to when Denver was under 50% at the face-off dot. They won 48.5%. They still made the Final Four, but that was also a much different time. No shot clock, timer on. So it's been 11 years. What does Denver look like this season with because say if you're talking about, your worries about Hopkins replacing the offense that they are, their production, from their offense. Denver's offense last year was 20th in adjusted offensive efficiency at 33.2%. And they are replacing their top two leading scorers in JJ Silstrop and Michael Lampert. Other big guys like Stephen Avery and Richie Connell. So what does a Denver offense that let's say they go from this, and they also last year on faceoffs won 61%. If I take a Denver offense that's losing their top two, lead that loses their first and second, their top two goal scorers, their top 2 point scorers, and goes from 61% to 48% of faceoffs, what does that look like?
I was just looking at that lacrosse reference page. So last time they had that low of a adjusted faceoff efficiency, which isn't even that low. 2022 and 2019. I'm trying to see what they finished those years.
So the last time they were below 60% in faceoffs,
9-6, 13-4 in 2017. So it wasn't that bad.
No, I mean, there's no real, they were in 2022. They were 12th in faceoff percentage, and their offense was 10th. In 2019, they were they were 15th and in offense in face-off percentage. They were 19th in offensive efficiency. That's sort of like their face-off percentage ranks since 2015 are second, first, second, 15th, 8th, 5th, 12th, 6th, 6th. They've had top 15 face-off play, or they've been first. I mean, if you go it by, here you go, just by their mean face-off rank every season since 2015 is 5th, 4.9. On average, they've had top 5 face-off play for a decade. Now look, they get this again. They're in business. But what happens if they all of a sudden are at 50%? I don't know. Austin, look, offensively, they're losing their top scorers, but of course, the boon case for them is bring back Mick Kelly, bring back Cody Milosky, Joshua Carlson, Noah Manning. Defense is where they lose. They lose all the face possession, and they lose just key guys on defensive end. Hanglin, DiBenedetto, and Jurtasi. Like these guys, they lose their best. Dan Anderson, their best shorty from a year ago. So a lot of defensive production. That's the interesting case. This game is fascinating. I'm fascinated to watch this game because I don't know what this game looks like. I think I know what this game looks like in the sense of I think this game is probably low scoring. Then again, we watched this game last year. I thought it was probably going to be low scoring. And then it was a friggin' shootout towards the end. The fourth quarter was insane, partly because Hopkins decided to go lose their minds and start taking penalties. Hopkins doesn't put Denver man up so many times in that game. They probably win it.
Yeah.
Look, Denver, there's certain things you know about Denver. Is Denver going to be good man up? Yes. They do not have Silstrop. He's a big part of them being a good man up. But look, he's a freak, super skilled. Mick Kelly's a skilled guy. You got Manning here. It's Denver. They're going to be good man up. I know that. Malcolm Kleben back. I like him in goal. Denver's going to be well coached. It's Matt Brown. I believe that Hopkins is going to be very good defensively based on what they're returning. So that does tell me, I think it's going to be low scoring. It's a February game. Hopkins traveling out to Denver. Denver games used earlier, this tells me it feels low scoring. Again, but I could be wrong. But Hopkins offense versus Denver's defense, what does that look like? I don't know. How does Hopkins play? We talk about who's the main piece on Hopkins offense. Who did they ride with? I don't know. We talk about Russell Melendez. I think the X factor for Hopkins is Brooks English. He was their guy who looked like their most explosive Dodger at the beginning last season. Mostly dodging kind of like a Jason from the wings. Does he play midfield? Can they put him at attack? I mean, he's a smaller guy, so it's always kind of interesting where you can kind of configure piece him. But I think he's the X factor for them. When he's been on the field, if he's been able to stay on the field, probably he's so small. But when he's been able to stay on the field, he's an explosive Dodger. And you talk about safe, with Hopkins, the problem for them has been dudes and guys who've been able to, a threat. I don't know if we're scared of guys. He makes things happen when the ball's in his stick. Teams have to account for him because he is a guy who teams have trouble staying in front of him. Now, again, injury history, but Melendez, can he, return? Hunter Chevette again. He's been a big time Flash has been a big time shooter. He's got to step into the Degnan spot. Can these guys we're talking about, can those Dodgers attack a Denver team that has to replace a lot of their poles? If they can, it probably should be a good day at the office. If they can't, then yeah, as you said, early season, Out west, turnovers, Denver playing a slower pace. You're talking about getting yourself into a grind of a game. You figure out Denver team, you put them man up. Denver's going to pot some goals. Denver's going to slow the pace down. They're going to be in position. What does Denver's offense versus Hopkins' defense look like? That to me looks more like, again, slowing the pace down, trying to find, work the shot clock down, force Hopkins' defense to get over aggressive. Is probably what I would say. See if they can make mistakes. Try and find positions for these skilled guys to get in tight. You got a new goalie, Luke Stout, finding new defense, communication breakdowns. That feels like what Denver's probably going to play for. But again, So Stroud, he was the main guy in this game last year. Possessions, like Denver, wants to dictate pace. What do faceoffs look like? What does Denver do if they can't win faceoffs? Does Denver try, pace? Does Denver try and increase pace? Hopkins, bringing in guys, from Yale, like Patrick Hackler, do they try and play faster early in the season? So I'm intrigued for this game. It's hard to see really what it looks like. These teams are both, in a lot of ways, very, very different from what they looked like a year ago. In different ways, but they're very different. So I kind of have a feel for what the game might look like, but it's hard to get a vibe for it.
Yeah, not that I'm expecting disaster, but I could see a tough afternoon. Just the away game, first of the season.
No, always
road. This is a tough opponent to begin with. Usually, home teams have a good advantage, but early in the season. So yeah, I think we learned a good amount about the Hopkins early on. The season is a decent top 10 opponent on the road. A lot of changes on offense for your own team. New offensive coordinator. A lot of questions.
Denver saying the same thing. I think that's the beauty of it. So if you want to pick some games.
Yeah, let's do that.
I got a pick 'em sheet just sent to you.
Get that.
All right, bud.
Let's do this.
Let's do this thing. All right. Pick 'em.
The hot take in me wants to go with the Gales, but I'm going to go with Iona.
All right.
That first one. Hofstra, not Iona. All right.
So safe. You are taking. Actually, let me just share a screen. I'll put our pick 'em sheet up here. Let people see. All right. So Hofstra, I want to say for both going with Hofstra. Rutgers, Lehigh. We got a bit of disagreement. Safe, where are you going?
They got to do this. Breck's got to bring this home. I cannot lose to a second-year coach. I think they got to do it. I think the Rutgers are going to do it. So yeah, I'm going with the Scarlet Knights.
It'd be a positive win early on in the year. Road game. Lehigh is always a tough place to play. I think that you're on this one. Part of me, on the one hand, is now I'm starting to reconsider this one because Lehigh won so many close games last year, and now I'm starting to wonder, and I said I think Lehigh might be a better team with a worse record, and this is where I think this could manifest itself. So now I'm starting to rethink my pick. But look, it's pick 'em. You gotta be a little bold. I just got questions about Rutgers. I'm not sure about them. Lehigh, Scudder. I think they know who they are. They got a vibe about them. They're confident. They know who they are coming off the NCAA tournament. The way they played Hopkins, man, that tournament game, they knew they knew that game plan, and they were very, very close to executing it. So I like where they're at going into 2025. I'll take the Mountain Hawks.
Jake, DC and Baltimore, Loyola at Georgetown. I'm going with the Hoyas. I'm just going with the proven commodity over the last 5 seasons. Kind of think Loyola is a bit of a rudderless ship right now, and I think the Hounds win this dogfight. Pun intended.
The Hounds win? That would be Loyola.
Sorry, the Hoyas win this dogfight.
I was gonna say. Part of me is like fearful here of February Loyola. I mean, look, they beat Georgetown by 8 last year, and then proceeded to lose by 7 to Maryland and 6 to Hopkins and 8 to Rutgers. The next 3.
They smoked Georgetown last year.
Yeah, and then 2023 they beat Maryland by 5 and Maryland and Hopkins by 5 to start the year, and then lost to Rutgers by 4 next week. 2024 or 2022 rather, they lost their first 4 games, and then they beat Duke in March. So it's Loyola. There's probably a bizarre result in here somewhere in this early season. Maybe now. Also, part of me is hoping that maybe it's this one and not beating Maryland at Ridley on March in next weekend, or safe perhaps for your sake. Maybe not beating Hopkins a couple weeks after that. It's Loyola, man. If it's one of them, if there's a weird Loyola result in there, it probably is going to be one of those two because it's at Ridley, and that's just a different place. So we'll see. But yeah, I just don't. I don't know what I can't, Georgetown. I see the pieces there. I see the team they can be. They're going to ride on. They're going to lean on that defense. Ty Banks, Seamus Foley, they got some strong pieces back there. Anderson Moore and goal. What? I don't know what Loyola is. I just don't right now. And Georgetown's at home. I think the Hoyas get off to a strong start. Richmond and Maryland.
Terps City.
I think this game you kind of know what it looks like. I think the Terps without Weirman, I think I like what they got with Shea Keithler and Trump Creed the faceoff dot. They're not going to win 60%, but I think they'll be able to put kind of a duo out there that plays pretty well. I think offensively it'll be a bit of a work in progress, but I like Maryland's defense. I think they're going to have a rope unit that's really solid, and we'll be able to play Maryland defense we expect, and that means this is there's not going to be a lot of possessions in this game. That means they're going to hold Richmond to a 7 to 8 number, and allow Maryland's offense to get to a number that is pretty manageable for them. A Richmond team that probably has their own questions offensively is probably not the one best posed to put a threat into Maryland early in the season like this. The weather being good makes this at least, look, if this was one where the weather was like 20 degrees, like we had a couple weeks ago, this could be like an all-time. But, with these two teams, defenses definitely will have their day, but could be, a strong defensive game. Hopefully maybe, some physicality is brought to it as well. Yeah, I like Maryland team is Colin Burley's, Jackson Gantenfield, Will Schaller. I think that's going to be a really strong defensive trio back there. Big Mac and goal were in the 1. I'm intrigued. Brian Ruppel apparently had a very, very strong last couple of months of practice. So but Mac's in the 1, but I'm intrigued to see how much Ruppel will play if he plays. That's something to monitor. But I'm going with the Terps. Safe. I'm safe. Are you okay?
I think it's a tough game. I got no problem playing at Denver. Wouldn't have mind them having.
I've never seen you like this.
I'm still. Last year's Final Four devastated me, Jake. Just absolutely, I was crestfallen.
What will it take to get the old safe back?
Ohio State making a run.
Man, come on.
Look, I'm not saying like I'm not Debbie Downer or like reverse jinx or I think
I can tell it's not a reverse jinx. I know. I can feel it.
This is real. Yeah, this is
this is real. This comment concerns me.
We're worried about you, safe. No, I just think it's a tough game. I think
I agree. Yeah, of course.
On the road, I would have loved just to like I said, it doesn't have to be a cupcake. I'm sure the scrimmages are going well, but like a live game, maybe at home, I would have preferred to start the season before flying out to Denver. But Milliman's the boss. Maybe they already scheduled this previous years, but yeah, I just don't like this first game out there with this type of team that does have a lot of pieces missing, but so does Hopkins going into this year, or pieces that are no longer there anymore, like Hopkins. But yeah, just I remember going into this game last year, I was like kind of overconfident. Hopkins up before it. I remember I just changed the channel and then I came back and I literally saw the game tying goal, and I just knew it. As soon as I was like, they're going to score, it's going to go to overtime, we're going to lose. And I just like, it happened. So Denver, yeah, like.
No, I get it, but like, there's something more. There's something more going on here.
It's definitely just like I don't know, like what to expect. I really feel like offensively, I hear all the great points you made, and you and Adam as well.
Safe. I watched you pick a Hopkins team to beat 22 Maryland like multiple times. Like.
We felt like gods at that moment. just the audacity.
You were young. You were a younger man.
I looked up at the gods and I was like, no.
Just shook his fist to God.
I think it was just the excitement of Milliman's early teams. I really, I kind of felt like that momentum, and I was just like, that momentum just crashed into a mountain last year, and because I really thought last year was going to be the Final Four year. Like
the Virginia game this year is going to be like the live show after the Virginia game this year is going to be. It's going to be like incredibly. It's we're going to like intervention because you're going to be actively depressed on air, or you're going to be You're gonna take over the show. Exactly. Like you're gonna be talking Final Four. Like
get that guy. Whoever was talking on January 29th. I don't know.
Like you're gonna be calling out Lars on the show. Lars, I want
book we're reading this week, Lars. What book we're reading? I guess a little bit of the it's just a little bit of the excitement. Like I really felt like the upward trajectory, like just what they were doing in the regular season, and it's just like it's just a little bit of a finish.
Those heartbreakers.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, it took a minute. I was like, because I was just the way that they had that 3-goal burst, and I was like, that's it, we got it. And then it just slowly just saw it just like choke out. And I was like, oh my god. And then in the overtime, it's just dreadful as well. So yeah, it's just mostly that, just like a bit of a downer. And I just don't want to underestimate Denver like I did last year. And I think last year was a better team, like going in.
I keep saying I'm surprised that they're kind of ranked where they're. Even the coaches poll too. That's why I'm like hurting. You feel like maybe anybody might give Denver a little more love. It might be the coaches, but maybe it says something. I don't know. We'll see. All right. Before we get out of here, Safe. You watching, listening, reading anything right now? You want to shout us out?
I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I think I joked around to Ryan about it because like we always have our cable streaming jokes. I got back with Paramount Plus legitimately to watch Landman. Did not regret the decision. It was actually really good, and it also allowed me to finish up season 3 of Mayor of Kingstown because I dropped Paramount like a year and a half ago. Just I was like, this is too decadent. The amount of streamers I had, but yeah, it was good. Like, and I'm not even that big of a big Billy Bob Thornton fan.
Yeah.
But John Hamm's in it as like he's the owner of an independent oil.
I've heard. Yeah, my dad.
It's just the Ham we want, just straight up, just throwing heaters. Like Billy Bob, like it's not even anything bad about Billy Bob, like I do with some other actors, like me with some actors. I just in the right role, I love him. Like I love him when the Affleck the Meteor movie, Bay, the asteroids come to Earth.
Oh, Armageddon.
Yeah, he was great in Armageddon. I love him. And there's certain things that he's great in, but certain things he's not. But this is he's perfectly perfect fit for this role. He's like this landman, which is essentially like the people who kind of like in between like the oil companies and the people who own the land, and they try to get like the mineral rights and a lot of the things that are like going on and good and bad on these patches while they're like taking the oil out. He's like in the middle of it. There's cartels. It's just a little bit of it. It's kind of my similar like critique. It always sounds like a madman critique. It's a little bit too much about the family, and it's like the thing we always was talking about The Wire. I was like, I just want the stuff in the trap house. I don't really stuff with the cops is good. It's just like I like in Game of Thrones. I was like, give me King's Landing. I don't care about the North, or anything above the wall. I was just like, I just need where the action's at. And usually, when he's like about the business, it's always like fast paced. But shout out to Ali Carter, high 90s, still got some movement on that fastball. I mean, absolutely. She's like the ex-wife. They get kind of back together. Little bit of uncomfortable stuff with they have a daughter. They kind of just. I think she's supposed to be 16, 17 in the show, but like Paramount goes a little bit wild and like kind of some of the suggestive stuff with her and some of the other younger characters. But everything that's out, remove the family. Everything else I really love about it. And it was really interesting. Paramount does good stuff. I mean, all Taylor's stuff is good. Maybe not all, but like I love Mayor Kingstown. I love Yellowstone. Love the 1883 show. I like the 1923 show that's coming back in February with Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren. So that's another safe recommendation. If you haven't seen season 1 of 1922, that's really, really good. Just, almost high quality in terms of the actors and production value and stuff like that. And Landman is a show that like definitely into. Show that's, I mean, it's kind of over, but if something you're looking for that it's kind of good. I'm a huge fan of Industry, and it was a gradual progression because like I think I always told you this. I didn't know season 1 of Industry was like it was the best worst show ever or the worst best show ever, and I couldn't decide because it had that HBO thing where they're always trying to like shoehorn a sex scene and just like again, just give me the trap house. I just want the stuff like in the business, like when they're talking about the finance stuff. Like that's what I'm into. I don't care about like their cousin or family, whatever. I just want to, and started to get more of that in season 2. And season 3 was just really good. It was just like pretty much really just about just the business, the angles, people trying to, get the deals and stuff like that. So just another show kind of fan of. But yeah, season 3 of Industry. It's on HBO Max. So definitely worth a while.
Good stuff. Oh, I'll check some of those out. Landman, yeah, I got enough people who have suggested it. And my dad suggested it, so I feel like I gotta do it. All right. Reading. I finished the book Lenin. By yeah, by
the big man,
the big man himself, by Victor Sebastian. If you're a history buff, I would recommend it. If you're a real history buff, I would recommend it. Because it's a good, it covers like just a bunch of information about that time period, if you're not, I would probably say no. Even if you're like a casual kind of person, I would probably say no, just because it is like dense reading and it kind of like repeats over stuff quite a bit. But I enjoyed reading it just because I'm like a real history kind of guy. I will say that like I enjoyed reading it because it really convinced me that someone should do like a comedy about like the fall of the Romanovs.
Oh yeah,
just like that time, but like there should be like an actual like comedy, like just so like there's so many like stories that just like
Armando Nucci.
Yes. Like that's
prequel to Death of Stalin. That'd be great.
Yes. That's like the Death Stalin deal, but like with the Roman, like oh my god, you could like there's so many stories. I can like read like I can find some like if I can do I have it do I have them here or did I delete them from my phone? Let me see. I took like pictures of someone. I think I posted them. They're so funny. It's the kind of stuff you were like here we go. It was like, so many of the Tsar's advisors warned against war. Count Sergei Witt, I think he was like the finance guy. He told him that we cannot afford to risk defeat because the army is the mainstay of the regime and may well be needed to preserve order at home. He was thanked and told to stop being so negative. It's just, how many more? When the February Revolution was kicking off, Nicholas's only response was to call the president of the Duma, who was like, it's basically like the Speaker of the House, but he had no actual power. Basically, like to call him fat and ignore it. Like he's just, it's just there's just so many of these that are. I swear, do I have any more?
It is amazing how they, blew a 3-1 lead. The Romanov family just like
It's in some ways realized like they really didn't have a lead to begin with. Like they were never meant to like survive. They
the tail end, yeah.
They were screwed.
How long did the dynasty last? Like
300 something years.
That's great, and he's like Queen Elizabeth's.
Oh, it's something like that.
Grandfather's brother, right, or cousin? Or
it's
they're all like Germanic origins.
Yeah, there's the last one I'll say. His father, Alexander III, the same guy, Count Sergei, who like was told like to stop being so negative. At one point, he like suggested to Nicholas's father, like, "What if we like give him something to do? Like he doesn't like do anything." Like kind of like make him. So like when he takes over, he's more like ready. And his father's like, "Have you like watched this kid? He's kind of a dunce."
He's an idiot.
Yeah. So and there's one more. It's like when like Nicholas is told like he's gonna like take over with his art because his dad dies. He apparently like cries. And he's like, Nicholas, what's wrong? He's like, I don't know how to be king. Legitimately, like this is what he does. I'm gonna tell you, like, there's like you could make an incredible show, like just based on this. It's like actually like being a comedy. Just based on this. So that was reading. I am currently soliciting book recommendations. So if anybody's reading anything good right now, drop in the comments when we upload this video on YouTube, or you can send it on Twitter. I did tell one of my students, I think they're reading Kafka right now. So I think like the Metamorphosis. So I said I'd read it. But that seems pretty short. So I think I can bang through that pretty quickly. But just try to read that. And then what I'm watching, Safe. I started a show that I'd been kind of familiar with, and I'd seen like parts of, but I'd never seen all the way through. So I'm sitting down and watching it all the way through. It's a show about a hardworking Italian family. Just a good sound values in the waste management business. Safe. I don't know if you ever heard this one. It's called the Sopranos.
You know what? I've heard some buzz about it. A couple of people have said it's worthwhile.
Yeah. I know. Apparently, won a reward or two. So I have started this recently. I'm about like halfway through, or like 11, 12 episodes into season 1. Quite a good program, I would say.
I've heard of some buzz. I've heard some buzz.
I've heard good things. I've heard good things.
A lot of people are saying this. No, I think you're all joke. I mean, it's definitely a classic, absolutely classic show. Like,
oh yeah, but yeah,
I definitely love Tony. It was, it's that. Petro. First time I was like, oh my god, it reminded me of Soprano. So that's kind of where the love affair started.
Yeah. Great characters. So yeah, I'm started. I'd seen episodes in the past. I was familiar with it. I mean, look, it's The Sopranos. There's no way you're not like familiar with it. But I've never done like a full watch through, so I'm doing that right now. And very good so far. So thanks for watching.
Excellent. Great representation of the Garden State.
All right. So, folks, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you were looking for any of our season preview content, any of the pods we do, the conference previews, or our big season preview show with all of our predictions, there is a playlist that we tweeted out earlier. You can find them you can find this playlist on our YouTube channel. You can also find all of those episodes on our YouTube channel as well. Of course, you can also find them on your podcast audio platforms. Same thing with this episode, which will go up on audio platforms, podcasts sometime tomorrow. We're going to get it out to Ryan about as soon as we finish recording here. And then this will also go up on YouTube a little bit later sometime, either tomorrow or Friday. And then Saturday, sometime afternoon safe, or evening, 5, I would say, maybe 6-ish. Sometime like that. We'll check with Ryan. Note from Ryan before we leave. He says that a Throg's Neck Bridge derby for Iona Hofstra. If they're playing St. John's LAU Hofstra, it's a Throg's Neck Bridge derby. Manhattan is a Bronx Westchester derby. Fairfield is a Metro North New Haven line derby. Sacred Heart is a Merritt Parkway derby. And you also can throw around Rick Pitino and Jay Hart and Jay Wright once coached here derby. So Saturday, we'll make sure to tweet the YouTube link. We will be live for the Power Hour, breaking down all the results from Saturday. Be there, join us. Hopefully have some fun graphics, everything. Should be a great time. Did it last year. Didn't do it even better this year. Hope to have you guys in the chat, chatting along with us, sharing your thoughts. Had a lot of fun doing this one. Back in the Mike's preview was safe. Back in the groove of things. We're doing it all season long. And again, this will be up on all podcast platforms. It'll be up on YouTube. Drop a like and subscribe on YouTube. If you watch any of the videos, hit like on them. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's where you can find all the videos, and you will get notifications when we go live. So make sure you do that, and we will be with you guys Saturday afternoon. And of course, we'll be on the timeline on Saturday, ready to go.
Love to see it, Jake.
Indeed. All right, folks. Stay warm out there. Stay hydrated.
Go Birds!
All right. Ending the stream.
See you out there.